Chapter 1. Birth of a Samurai. Warm blood dripped from the little boy's cheek as he raced through the forest path, his heart pounding in sync with each swift stride. In his trembling hands, he clutched a sword, a symbol of his father's love and devotion. Outside the imposing entrance of the Daimyo Kyoto family home, fear mingled with anticipation, rendering the child momentarily motionless. The weight of what he had just witnessed bore heavily upon him. Now he stood before the most influential samurai clan in their region, the weight of their expectations pressing upon his small shoulders. With bated breath, he listened intently to the approaching footsteps, offering up the blood-stained sword as a humble tribute. His gaze remained fixed on his crimson-soaked garments, yet his thoughts were consumed by the singular desire to please the Kyoto family with his father's meticulously crafted masterpiece. As the door slid open before him, he sank to his knees, his very breath eluding him, as the magnitude of the moment enveloped him completely. "What is this?" an older woman exclaimed at the horrific sight that knelt before her. "Please forgive," the little boy mumbled, while raising the sword above his head for her to receive. "Where is the maker? Why is he not here to—" She cut her questioning off at the sound of screaming coming from within the house. She immediately took action. Grasping the sword between the boy's two little hands, she made sure not to get blood on her hands. Her eyes followed the boy as he swiftly ran away, knowing he had wanted to escape as soon as the sword was in her possession. But there was no time to dwell on his escape. Another scream pierced the air. With determination, the woman knew she had to act swiftly. She slid the door shut, shutting off the source of the screams behind her. Her grip on the sword tightened, ensuring that not a single drop of blood would stain the floor. "Hurry! He is coming!" a voice shouted from a nearby room. Thoughts of wiping the sword clean of blood vanished as she picked up her pace. Upon entering the room, she spotted her daughter panting heavily, reaching out. "Give it to me now," she demanded. Without any further thoughts of blood spreading from the sword to their home, the woman handed it to her daughter, Hura. Grasping the blade and bringing it close to her bosom, Hura felt a piercing pain and knew it was time to push once more. "He's coming!" she screamed, bearing down to push a new samurai into the world. Now that she had his sword, their two souls would become one as he entered the world. Holding the sword tight, Hura pushed once again where she squatted. Two servant women knelt, one on either side, ready to hold her up if needed. One woman, believing Hura was becoming unsteady, reached to grasp her. "Unhand me! Kyoto women do not require help from servants to birth samurai," Hura exclaimed, even while she struggled. She could feel her strength depleting but still had no intention of getting help delivering her son. She pushed and pushed with seemingly no progress as sweat ran down her face. Labor had started before bed and the day was nearing an end. Noticing her daughter's struggle and having lost a daughter in a similar birth years earlier, Hura's mother, Kawa, prepared herself for what she understood was most likely the end. "You two, open the windows and give her some air," Kawa ordered the two servants as her daughter once again pushed with no results. They quickly rose and made their way over to remove a 4-square paper panel from a wall on each side of the room. Placing them on holders nearby, both turned and returned to their mistress's side. Both women were aware of how dreadful the situation was becoming as they noticed the sun approaching the horizon. Flustered that even with windows open at each side there was still no air movement, Kawa looked toward her daughter's servants. "She doesn't need your help with strength to remain upright. Fan her," she ordered them, pointing to 2 folding fans nearby. They retrieved 1 fan each, unfurled them, and began pushing air with them. With every wave of their fans, they noticed their master becoming paler and paler. Suddenly, blood flowed rapidly from between Hura's legs, startling the servants and causing them to hesitate. "What are you doing? Don't stop! Faster, Kawa ordered. Looking at her daughter's pale complexion, Kawa understood it wouldn't be long before Hura and her child would succumb to fatigue and blood loss. Watching helplessly as a pool of blood grew beneath her daughter, she couldn't bear to watch. Kawa began to fill with grief as her now ghostly white daughter's grip began to loosen on the sword as she swayed unsteadily. Not wanting to witness another daughter die this way, Kawa turned slightly to stare out a window at the cherry trees that were about to blossom. The setting sun's rays flowed through the blossoms, overtaken by the beauty that lay just outside and the death accruing inside. A tear ran down Kawa's face as she watched the sun, and its rays turned a dark red she had never observed before. Suddenly, red streaks of rays sliced through the cherry trees, and she couldn't believe her eyes as they appeared to dance with beautiful blooms sparkling in red light. Grief can make you see strange things, Kawa thought. Closely watching the mesmerizing scene before her, a mix of sorrow and wonder overwhelmed her. The tears on her face were now joined by a sense of awe and a glimmer of hope. As the crimson rays danced with the sparkling blooms, Kawa couldn't help but contemplate the transient nature of life. She understood that her daughter's time was limited, but in this captivating display, she also saw a reminder of the inherent beauty that accompanies every fleeting moment. It was a bittersweet revelation, a poignant mix of joy and sorrow. Grief can indeed cloud one's perception, making the mind susceptible to illusions and unusual interpretations. But in this instance, Kawa's experience was not merely a figment of her imagination, it was a manifestation of the interconnectedness between human emotions and the natural world. It was as if the universe itself were whispering to her, assuring her that even in the darkest of times, there is always a glimmer of beauty to be found. In the midst of her own heartache, Kawa's tear-streaked face carried a newfound resilience. She vowed to cherish the time she had left with her daughter, to find solace in the smallest of moments, and to remember that beauty can arise even from the depths of sorrow. With renewed determination, she turned away from the window and walked back to her daughter's side, ready to face the challenges ahead with love and strength. "Makoto!" Startled, her attention turned back to her daughter, who was now holding the sword up above her head, shouting once more, "Makoto!" With the second calling, a cool spring breeze began entering the room as Mrs. Kyoto called out a third time, thrusting both arms in the air. "Makoto!" With her third calling, her mother felt a strange energy in the air as her eyes caught sight of something entering from an open window. "What is that?" she thought in disbelief, as a cherry blossom danced its way over, landing on the sword sticking in the unknown blood. There must have been a tree that blossomed early nearby. "Makoto!" her daughter once again called out. This time, Kawa noticed the energy all around intensify. Once again, something drew her attention far outside, where hundreds of cherry trees, with bright red rays of sunlight flowing through them, suddenly possessed beautiful light pink blooms. Though mesmerized by such a beautiful sight, she heard her daughter, who had not pushed in nearly an hour, once again grunting and pushing furiously. Only this time, something was happening. A head then, shoulders began to appear from her womb. Still holding the sword high above her head, Hura called out once more, "Makoto!" At that moment, light in the room began to dim, drawing Kawa's attention from her daughter back outside. There, she saw dancing cherry blossoms free from their branches, swirling in the wind like ocean waves flowing in their direction. Slowly, the blossoms entered through the window, filling the room with a sweet, wonderful scent as they combined on the floor around her daughter's legs like bedding. Her daughter once again called, "Makoto!" In that poignant moment, as the cherry blossoms swayed gracefully in the gentle breeze, Hura's trembling body released her blood-covered baby son. The fragile petals of the cherry trees, like nature's tender caress, created a soft and comforting bed for the newborn, cradling him in their delicate embrace. With immense love and a mother's unyielding devotion, Hura slowly lowered her son's sword from above her head, feeling the weight of its significance. In this act, she offered him not only protection, but another piece of his own soul, a piece that would carry the strength and resilience necessary to face the challenges that lay ahead. As the blade descended with a weighty finality, time seemed to slow down, capturing the essence of this profound moment. A single crimson drop of unknown blood, suspended in the air, delicately clung to a cherry blossom petal before gracefully falling, landing upon the baby's forehead. It was as if the very essence of life's mysteries had marked the child in that instant. Her heart filled with an overwhelming love and a deep understanding of the sacrifice she was making. She placed the sword beside her son with utmost gentleness. In this act, sword and child became forever intertwined, their fates entwined like the roots of a tree. Blossoms bloomed around them, as if nature itself acknowledged and celebrated this union. Each petal whispered secrets of resilience, honor, and the indomitable spirit that would forever guide the child on his journey to become a samurai. The ephemeral beauty of the cherry blossoms mirrored the fleeting nature of life, while the sword represented strength, protection, and the weight of responsibility. "Assist me!" Haru ordered her servants as she struggled to not collapse on her son. Though startled with what had just occurred and waving off the two servant women from her daughter, Kawa took Haru's hand and assisted her to a mat for rest. Stroking her daughter's hair, Kawa felt overwhelming happiness in not losing another daughter, but still didn't understand what had materialized before them. Once Haru was resting comfortably, Kawa turned her attention to her grandson, only to freeze at the sight of his hands grasping the sword's handle, and his umbilical cord severed from his body.